partnering up with Goonhammer and Joe from War Games Live to bring to you the greatest Streamhouse RTT ever. We've gathered the strongest competitors out there. Quentin Johnson, Kazra Hushidar, Adam Camilleri, Mark Perry, Nick Nadavati, Richard Siegler, John Lennon, and current ITC champion Jack Harpster. These brave warriors are going to duke it out for you over a double elimination format Thursday, March 30th through Sunday, April 2nd. 15 games, 11 rounds, all streamed to you on the Art of War YouTube channel. We asked our friends over at Goodhammer to seed us and put us into a bracket, and then in reverse order of seed, we drafted factions. 8 top players, 8 different factions. We've even partnered with Away Games, who's professionally painted 2 beautiful sets of Art of War specific terrain. That's right, we're creating our own Art of War tournament terrain set. Watch live, and not only can you catch the action in real time, but you'll be entered into a raffle to win prize support from our wonderful sponsors: Objective Markers from 3D6 Wargaming, Army Painter Mega Sets from the Army Painter, Warp Fire Minis, Big Bear 3D, Table War, and so many more. Keep an eye on the Art of War YouTube channel for daily list reveals starting Wednesday, March 15th. All games will be available for rewatch for our lore members at any time.
And we are live! What's up, everyone? Welcome back. It's a happy, sunny Monday morning. I'm here, I'm live with Jay from Mohawk Miniatures, and we are here for a Hangout and Hobby. How's everyone doing? Jay, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, dude. I'm doing all right. It is actually a nice sunny day. It's still cold.
Fantastic.
But it is a nice sunny day. So
did you move your studio
the first of the 4 we get allocated for the year in the UK.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, I'm glad that I happen to be here for one of your 3 sunny days this year. makes me feel very lucky.
Well, you never know. You might get one at the end of next month.
You know, I genuinely hope so. I genuinely hope
it's possible. So. Well, we're in Manchester. It's going to be great anyway. So.
No, yeah, fair enough. All right. So, hello, everyone. We're here for Hangout and Hobby. This is the ongoing series every Monday at 10 a.m. where Jay is here to teach me how to paint. As much as I like to make jokes at my own expense, shockingly enough, I can say that it's actually working. I'm even using it on other models off camera, and I'm like, oh man, this does look better.
I have photographic proof of this as well. John is actually becoming a hobbyist.
I know, it's happening. I've been trying to be a hobbyist for a while, and we're getting better at it. So
doing well.
Yeah, so in this series, Jay's teaching me a bunch of different painting techniques while we're here, while we're hanging out. And he's doing it in a wonderful way that I can understand, which means that he's dumbing it down a little bit for me, which is exactly what I need. So if you want to watch along, this is a great opportunity to watch, kind of learn some techniques for yourself, or just hang out with us, talk stuff in the chat. You know, we just love having a good time, just 2 friends hanging out on a Monday morning. As well, absolutely. You should make sure that you check out Jay's channel. You can find him on Twitch or on YouTube. You should definitely give him a like and subscribe in both platforms. And Jay, you're live 6 days a week, is that right?
Counting the stream, yes, currently I'm live 6 days a week. I thought streamers were meant to just sort of sit down in their underwear for like most of the day and do nothing, but apparently that's not actually the way you do it.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what everyone thinks I do. Yeah, I won't stand up, but I promise I'm wearing pants right now. Don't worry.
Yeah, totally.
100%, but I'm not willing to prove that.
I said it was cold, all right? Don't judge me on this.
Right on. So, if you're watching this is also a good time to hit that like button for our channel. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We really appreciate all the support you can give us in the War Room. And as well, if you want to get a lot more high-level 40K content, where we teach you how to play with these well-painted models that Jay's helped me out with, make sure you check out the link below where you can get access to the War Room. We're running a free 3-day trial right now. So if you want to check out the War Room, where a bunch of top-level players like myself, Jack Harpster, Richard Siegler, Nick Nadavati, and many, many more are there to teach you about the game you love, make sure you click that link below. All right.
Excellent stuff. All
right, Mr. J. So last week, we were working on non-metallic metal, which is very intimidating, but also I think I did okay on.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You did way better than okay. For your first attempt, dude, you did absolutely fantastically. Don't sell yourself short. NMM is one of those techniques that does require practice to pull off. Mm-hmm. But you've done great for your first attempt.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly.
Well, I'm excited to continue to learn it. I'm also gonna start braiding you for non-metallic silver at some point, which I assume is same thing, different colors. and I'm basically just going to ask you what colors those are.
Basically, yes. To be fair, all non-metallic metal, with only really sort of 2 or 3 small exceptions, works the same way, but with just different colors. Like, for instance, if we were to do the chainsaw teeth, the engine, the bits on the bolt gun, and all that sort of stuff in non-metallic steel, that would be basically the same as the gold. Your reflections work the same way, your blends work the same way. If you're to do it in chrome, that becomes different. So there are certain metals that are crazily reflective, and almost have like a mirror finish. Chrome is one of those. So if you're doing chrome, one of the best ways to simulate that is to, it's a bit like my logo actually, you can't really see it in the light, have a skyline and a ground line, and you do blue above and usually brown or whatever below. And if you've done armor in a non-metallic finish, so it's like a metallic with maybe a coat of something over it, that works a little differently as well. But otherwise, basically, it is all kind of the same. Now, yeah, last week we worked, and I said yesterday for some reason, we worked on the easier part, which is the Aquila. Yep. For anyone that wants to try non-metallic metal at home, one of the best places to start is on something that's really detailed. And that sounds backwards completely, because surely this is hard. Look at all these little things that you've got to paint. It requires a bit of manual brush skill, like practice, waving this bit about. But that bit's kind of easy because everything's got its own small reflection, and it doesn't matter which side we sort of rotate this guy to, it looks right from that side. Today we're going to do one of the harder bits, which is a large flat surface that happens to be slightly rounded. So things like shields, armor in general is difficult. Long items like swords and things are difficult. And the reason behind that is we've all seen big round metallic things in life, right?
That's true.
We can quite clearly look at something and go, that's right or that's wrong. And that's why things like OSL, fire effects and stuff like that are difficult as well. We can just know what light doesn't behave like that. There's something wrong about that. You might not know why it's wrong. You just understand that it's wrong.
Yeah, that is how I feel literally every time I feel fire. Every time I paint fire, I should say.
Oh, I thought you meant the fire was wrong. I'm like, okay, Caveman John over here.
Yeah. No, every time I paint it. It's one of the things on the long list that I'm gonna be asking for Jay's help with.
Excellent. Well, what we'll do is we'll set fire to a model. We'll have a good reference point at that stage, and we'll
Absolutely.
Work out
I'll see if I can borrow some of Richard's Tau. I can think of several good candidates.
Oh, dude, that would get a lot of views on that stream. The burning ceaseless Tau.
Honestly, I'm going to pitch it to him because I think it's the most efficient thing we can do with his models. Like, how many views do we get for a game that requires 2,000 points of Tau? I can get as many views with 140 points of a hammerhead, honestly.
Yeah, long strike doesn't need to exist as far as a light player is concerned.
Exactly. Now you get it.
So then, I'm going to put you on the spot. We did this last time, and you nailed it. What do you remember about painting non-metallic metal in the way that we've done the gold?
Okay, so what I remember with the gold was specifically that it's a bit of a yellowy reflection. So, or a yellow, has kind of a yellow color to it. So we started out with brown, and then we started working up with kind of like with like a mix of brown and that ember orange, I think was what you used. I have my own color here. And we built that up, but if we keep doing that, it's going to get too coppery. So we switched it over, and we started adding a little bit of yellow into it, and kind of used that as we kept going, because basically we were just making a bunch of small brush strokes on all the details, and just making sure that we were kind of leaving like the natural tops, or like I guess like that wing bone on top, and then on the feathers we were going for kind of the higher and outer couple towards the end, and we're making those a little bit lighter, and we had to go in at one point and do a little bit of a glaze with purple to get some separation, because purple is a wonderful contrasting color to the yellow and oranges that we were using. And I remember that we built it right up at the end with just a little bit of white in, but not too much, because it kind of bleaches the color out. That's
absolutely spot on. Chat, like, just give John a round of applause. I don't know if you've got like clapping emotes and stuff in YouTube chat, but you definitely need them for that. Well done. That's the key. So we talked earlier on briefly about painting different metals and how they all work differently with different colors. gold should be a warm yellowy tone. If it's too cold, it looks like brass. If it's too warm, it can look like copper or bronze, and we want gold. So here's the bit where it's going to be a little bit tricky, John.
All right.
Let's just work on, like, well, you can do either shoulder pad. This one of these is slightly harder. It's got the ridge. I'll definitely be doing that one. I'll probably just quick fire this one. We need to start warming the surface up. Now, the first thing I suggest that you do when you're painting anything that isn't an easy, like, paint by numbers thing like this, we have defined edges everywhere. This we don't have a defined edge on. Is make yourself a map. You ever heard about that technique where people take a mini, they'll like light it really harshly from above and then grab a phone camera and just like take a few shots so you can see where the natural highlights fall?
You know, I have not, but saying it out loud
really?
does make it make sense.
Okay. You know, so the slap chop technique everyone's doing at the moment, where you dry brush the hell out of something a couple of times and then you just glaze some other colors over.
Oh.
The way that works
people call
is
that a technique?
you're... Sorry, go on.
I've just been doing that. I didn't know there's a name for that. Just dry brush everything.
Well, you know, the technique has been around for a very long time, and recently it was made
every
famous,
brush is a dry brush.
Discussion at that.
Come on, Jay. Every brush is a dry brush if you don't thin your paints.
Actually, to be fair, I do dry brush almost every single mini that I paint, and here is my paint water, and this is the best place for a Citadel dry brush, is being left in that to stir paint in my airbrush. And that's the correct way of using a dry brush as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, that technique is a way of like mapping the values on a model. So when light hits something, it makes it brighter, it increases the value. When light doesn't hit anything, the shadow, it decreases the value. We're looking at a way to create that light and dark map. That technique is said about with the phone camera and like increasing the contrast is like a snapshot of where your highlights would likely be in a realistic fashion. Essentially, both of those two things, what they really do is they give you a map. They give you a guide on where your highlights are going to be. And when you're painting something like this, I find it's quite often a useful technique to put on some final highlights right at the very beginning, essentially, so you know roughly where you're going.
Okay.
Now we're going to paint with a progressive blend of colors. So I've got my palette set up for this already. Purple, Rhinox, this is from Nagaroth Night from GW, Rhinox Hide from GW, Ember Orange from P3, it's a brilliant bright orange, Flash Gets Yellow, and Morrow White, probably the best acrylic white paint I've ever used, also from P3. That's a little hard to get, so anyone that's watching at home, the Monument Hobbies one is really good, they're bold titanium white, but if you can find this, it's spectacular. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little of that white, and we're just going to put on some markers where our highlights are. So what you need to do, John, is think about how, if this was made of metal, light would strike it at its absolute brightest points. We're talking about primary reflections, and there are many kinds of reflections, but the brightest absolute single spot highlight, where would it be on various parts of this? So for my shoulder pad, I'm going to say that light would hit here quite brightly. We'd have a little bit at the bottom there. Probably more of that there. Same sort of positioning, just down below. On there. And then here, I reckon there's going to be quite a nice bright highlight that goes in there. Now, this isn't the final look to our model, obviously. And the highlight might shift around a little bit. But as a rough guide, that's where we're likely to put our brightest highlights. This doesn't mean that this will be just a dot of white at the end that finishes it off or whatever, but this is where they're going to be concentrated. You'll note that towards the back, no highlights. This is going to be nice and dark. Towards the front, right near the face, which is the focal point on the model, really the eyes, to be specific, want those highlights there to draw attention in to this point.
Okay.
On the other shoulder pad, it's going to be pretty much here. That's going to be one of the brightest points. And we'll probably take that further down to there. Have a little bit of a ripple in between, so light, dark, light.
Gotcha. My guys posed significantly differently to yours, so I'm
very
gonna,
different.
Yeah,
That's kind of the thing. It makes us know that you've understood the technique. You've got it. So
yeah, so kind of trying to figure out exactly where that would go, and I think I'm doing it towards the top of his right shoulder pad because he's he's lowering that right shoulder, and then there's a shield covering it. So I think right there is probably where that's going to catch the light the most.
Yeah, looks good, dude. Right, and now we're going to go through a lot of the same processes as last time.
Mhm.
What we need to think about, though, is on this, we could use like layer consistency just thinned a little bit. Here, we're going to have to start getting glazed later on. We need to ensure that our blends are much smoother because we have a larger surface. And that's why anything larger is more difficult for non-metallic metal. It requires more effort to create a nice smooth blend, whereas something that's small, contrast is really the most important element to that. You know, if you took this under a really, really good zoom lens, you'd probably see there's quite a few inconsistencies to my blends. But at this scale, from this far away, it looks pretty all right. So let's get to it, my man. Start off with some Rhinoxide and some orange and start building yourself up. Now, to begin with, you don't need to go like too thin. We can get a couple of coats down that aren't particularly colorful and not particularly thin. And remember, you don't want to paint this into where the darkest shadows are. Those recesses we do want to keep nice and dark. You know, influence those a little bit more at some point later on, but for now, just avoid them. So in chat, we got Ape of Justice, Adrian Wengener, I'm going to say. Greets from Germany. Excellent. I will be in Germany this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, excellent. What event are you going to be at?
Going to an event called the Firebug Open. It's run by a buddy of mine, Daniel, who is coming on to the WTC's referee corps this year as well, actually.
Oh, marvelous. Okay.
So you'll probably get the chance to meet him in Mechelen in August.
Very exciting.
I was extremely excited about the event until I found that I couldn't take fortifications. So my Nurgle tree has got to stay at home, and I'm very disappointed by this. But I understand.
That is a pity. That is, I will say, now that I have found somebody to complain to, that is my least favorite part of the WTC format.
The no fortifications.
The no fortifications.
I understand it. I just wish that wasn't the case. So, just because I want to take my little garden of Nurgle with me.
Yeah, well, for me, it's the Battle Sanctum. Because the Battle Sanctum is my favorite fortification in the game, and I made a bit of a name by just taking that when no one else was, and I used it to overcome the Summer of Admech.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was my tech. It was like, all right, Sisters with a Battle Sanctum, and then I went and won the Lone Star Open with that.
Nice.
Right after the Sisters book came out. But then you all wouldn't let me take a Battle Sanctum, so I didn't even take Sisters to WTC.
I will say you probably had one of the best AdMech practice partners that you could ever have asked for.
Yeah, no, that definitely helped.
So if it worked there, it would have worked anywhere.
Right? Yeah. Did feel that way. All right. So as I'm putting this on, I'm just kind of not putting it on the right along the bottom where we know it's going to be darker.
Basically, yeah. So I've left the absolute darkest shadows. And bear in mind, our shadows are going to go through like various stages. The darkest bit is going to be right down here. But right next to it won't be quite as dark. And right next to that, it won't be quite as dark, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty close to the bottom.
What we can do is later on we can look at some secondary and tertiary reflections. So when you're painting non-metallic metal, we've started off with our primary reflections, these white dots that look completely ridiculous right now, but just exist to remind us this is where our highlight's going. Here's a little guide on where we're going to move our blend to and so on. But we need to also remember that our blend has to come from somewhere. We have to have that darker element.
Yep.
But it needs to move slowly into the light. We can help to create contrast in those areas with secondary and tertiary reflections. So they are where light isn't coming from your primary light source. So let's say our primary light source in this case, which is quite common in most people, and their painting is the sun. Right?
Yep.
Let's say the sun is shining. It's hitting our marine. The biggest reflections are going to be the most powerful source of reflection, which is going to be from the main light source reflecting directly off of the armor. A secondary or tertiary highlight is where light is hit somewhere else, is being reflected back, and that reflection is putting light onto our gold, our non-metallic metal.
Yeah.
So we add those in. And we can do a lot of work with those later on to increase contrast in our darker areas. And with non-metallic metal, contrast is one of the most important things. Right, let's have a quick look in chat and see what we've got from people. Primaris Elite says, if any of airbrushed models have 2 500-point forces, once I get tax money, I'm going all in on Custodies. Teach me your ways. Custodies are a brilliant way to paint, and you really do like want to lean into the airbrush for that, I feel.
Yeah, I see that Elite is living up to their name with the Custodies army coming up. But but honestly, Custodies is a great army to start on, because it's so affordable to get an army up quickly, and then it's also, what I really like is that there's not a ton of like kits and Custodies, to the point where I feel like I could, like, if I was ever like, oh, I want to change my list, I could just go get like 2 or 3 kits and then change the list.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. It's nice as well having those boxes where like, here is my basic trooper or my elite trooper in whatever kind of armor it is that I've got, but also here's my standard bearer, my captain, my so on and so on, all in the same box, because you've got loads of little opportunities for conversion bits and making the army yours, like a personal thing for you at that stage, which I really like.
Yeah, it's definitely, I have my Custodies army is probably one of my better looking ones, because I've taken time on it, but also frankly it's one of my better 2,000 points, I should say, not the whole collection.
Nice.
And I'm going to give half of that credit to the Forgel transfer sheet, because that was an investment I was very happy to make.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I usually don't use transfers. I think Custodies is the only army that I have put transfers on, like, multiple models. But, Custodies transfer sheet is special.
You freehand all your unit markings and stuff then, yeah?
I usually do.
Nice.
Or I just don't put them on.
I was waiting for that to be the first answer there, actually, but well done. David Graham, hello, how you doing?
Hello, welcome everyone in the chat. If anyone here is watching from work, 1, we salute you. 2, if you're watching from home and you happen to be painting something, let us know what you're working on. So I always like hearing what people are working on. And it's always fun whenever I get that rare alignment where it's like, oh, someone is painting the same thing as me. Like, if anyone is painting a Primaris Assault Intercessor right now, you're my favorite person in chat. Other than Jay.
In about 3 weeks, when we do the humongous stream giveaway on my channel and give away a Thunderhawk gunship, I know there's somebody in the chat right now with us that will be doing a Thunderhawk gunship paint-along. And I feel that is the absolute pinnacle of exactly that feeling at that stage.
Man, that is pretty great. Could I get a Thunderhawk in the next 3 weeks? Survey says probably not. But it would be cool.
Not with that attitude. Come on, you can try harder than that.
Yeah, I checked my bank account real quick, and I was like, ooh.
Hashtag make it happen.
It's all right. Now, when you do that, remind me and also the chat, exactly what day that's going to be?
It's the 22nd and 23rd of April. It's the week before Warhammer Fest.
Gotcha.
I'm then taking that Thunderhawk to Warhammer Fest so I can lose 5 games in a row with it.
Not with that attitude.
My goal is to go even, at least. 2 wins and a draw I'll take. But when else am I ever going to get a chance to play with one of those things? They're bloody amazing.
I genuinely hope that they find a way to make it work.
Oh, me too, dude.
Ooh, got someone painting some Crimson Fists in the chat.
Nice.
And Ape of Justice is working on a Phantom Titan for the stream weekend.
Yes, he's going to follow my super heavy paint along with a super heavy of his own, but his is taller. Quite definitely.
Awesome. Well, maybe I'll be in there on the stream weekend, and I'll just be working on my own stuff.
Well, if you are, maybe you could get a Thunderhawk in the next 3 weeks.
I'd have to be. Whatever I'm painting will probably be something I also plan to take to Warhammer Fest, and clearly I just am not as brave as you. Maybe I'll do something boring like paint Desolator Marines.
Fly, I think, is what we could really put it down to. And unfortunately, they haven't made a working Thunderhawk model yet, so you can't just fly here on one of those.
Well, if I could, I would. Maybe I'll just paint some Desolator Marines. I hear those are the thing now.
Oh, God, if you were in my stream last night, you've all heard this rant, but I have been saying for weeks how Desolation Marines, whatever they're called, are not broken, but are extremely, extremely good because they remove interactivity from the game. Your opponent can't hide. Therefore, it removes essentially terrain. Unless it's dense, it doesn't matter. So they needed to be the higher points cost that they are. And if
really
anyone followed the results of the Manchester GT at the weekend, where every single player in the top 4 had an army built specifically around those models.
I don't really see the problem here. I don't know. What could be wrong with that? I mean, the way I looked at it was in my mind, there was a clear 2 top armies in the game right now between Guard and Space Marines. We can just lump all the Space Marines together. And then they gave one of those armies a tool that hard counters the other army.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh yeah, that'll do it right there, huh?
Pretty much. There's a lot of people right now taking back into Craft Worlds, and I've not really had a chance to really sit down and like mentally do the gymnastics to get through the lists, but I've seen Shroud Runners becoming extremely popular right now.
Yeah, well, they're super good into Guard. I don't think they help much into Space Marines, the problem, unless you go for Ignore Cover. So I could kind of see Ignore Cover out there being something that maybe starts to become a lot more popular. That would not surprise me. But in Hail of Doom, I think that just 1 or 2 units just to go assassinate the Guard mortars is about what you're going for.
I think that makes sense. Because once you've done that, their job is pretty much done. They're not going to really threaten tanks and stuff, so you can just be a bit of a pain in the butt.
You go in, you assassinate a Khazarkan or mortar team, and then you go tag the front Lehman Russ, and you spread out your giant bases, and you're like, all right, I have robbed you of all your indirect and 1 movement phase. Your turn.
I think that's a pretty solid thing.
Yeah, it's a
explains
solid
has anyone got any of these for sale messages I keep seeing in my WhatsApp groups?
Oh, the Desolator Marines or the Shadowrunners? Because the Desolators, funny enough, they're selling really cheap. Desolators are selling super cheap in the US right now, which is the funniest thing. Because I know that price is honestly, I would like thought about like, ooh, what if I just like buy them all right now and then sell them for double in a week? And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna. I don't need to be a scalper. We don't need more of those. So hopefully people enjoy their cheap Desolators. We
definitely do not need more of those in a hobby. Although when I found out what the secondary market was like for Valhallan, for Steel Legion.
Oh man.
I must admit, I was like, oh damn, really?
Yeah.
They went up to Made Forward on GW's website, and a guy with a plasma gun was £19 for the one guy. And I appreciate, because it's made to order, there's got to be like a premium to pay, because it's all being made out of metal and it requires like extra health and safety stuff and everything else.
Is the made to order stuff is computer?
All the other stuff that comes with it, right?
Wow. I honestly assumed that the made to order stuff was going to be I really assumed that it was just going to be Finecast.
No, it's like full pewter white metal.
No kidding. I haven't ordered any of the
made
to order. Yeah, no kidding.
And everyone was like, well, this is really, really expensive. And somebody in a chat popped up and said, you have no idea what the price is like on eBay for stuff like this. This is cheap. This is a brilliant weekend for me. And he was all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, secondary market.
Good.
It is what it is. Let's see what everybody else is doing, though.
Let's see. David Graham is building Mr. Guilliman at the moment.
Nice.
Had him in Impure Magazine. 10th edition trailer inspired you to paint him. At this point, I think you got to paint him so that you can get the lion going next month or whenever the heck we get him. I'm assuming the lion's pretty close.
I'm thinking it's close. Yeah, it's going to be
because he's probably dropping
whatever
the same
they've
time.
called the End Times books.
Yeah, the Arcs of Omen.
Right.
Yeah, and those have been firing pretty fast. It feels like. So I'm sure we're getting him like April or early May.
I can't wait for April the 1st to come around and to announce the release date for it.
Oh, April 1st, I'm going to
be... do they mean this or not?
I think I complained about April 1st last stream, but I'll say it again. I have no problems with April 1st, but everything needs to be deleted at the end of the day. Because April 1st jokes are not funny on April 2nd. And if it's still on my Facebook feed, and then I'm like the filter's off, I'm like, all right, we're back to serious internet, or as serious as the internet ever is. And then it's there, and I'm like, holy crap, the Lions and Aura of reroll hits and wounds only for Desolators? Oh god, it's April 2nd.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have been joking a lot, though, that I'm super excited for the balance patch to, like, nerf Dark Angels, like, and fix all their problems, and then they just release the Lion. He's going to be like an Aura of reroll hits and wounds, and suddenly we are right back.
hadn't thought about that. Here's the data slate, and the following day, here's your broken army.
Yeah, because they'll probably just be like, oh, Deathwing Terminators aren't as good as before, and then they'll just like move on. They'll call that good, right? Which, like, fair call. That probably would normally be enough. But then they're going to drop the Lion.
Normal circumstances, yes, but then their Primarch comes along.
Yeah, no, I'm
hits Control Z.
Yeah, with no idea whatsoever of what actually is in that datasheet. Other than that, he'll have a 2-up save. Spoiler alert, I didn't tell you, but I bet he has a 2-up save.
Bet you anything he's got a 4-up invul. There you go.
I could see him having a 3-up. Doesn't Guilliman have a 3-up? I feel like Guilliman has a 3-up invul.
Yeah, Guilliman and the
I could see
stuff do as well.
Yeah, no, I could see the Lion having a 4-up invul, and I could see him having a 3-up invul. I highly doubt that he has a 5-up invul. That seems unlikely.
What do you reckon the chances are around a demon save? just to push that one out.
2-up armor, no demon save. That's my prediction. That'd be funny though. That'd be funny. I'm waiting for the April. I'm waiting for the April 1st.
It could be like one of those, like, listen, no, we've watched and we've seen, and therefore you can't modify saves and stuff at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
which is going to be the equivalent of
a demon
for all
save?
the players. It's like, oh, that's a demon save.
Yeah. Well, he is carrying the Emperor's Shield, which you would think is going to give something real good.
I'd love it if the rules were just Storm Shield. I think that was it. That's what it's Storm Shield.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll probably be something like, it'll be like, oh, phase cap. It'll be like, oh, great.
It's quite likely to be a phase cap, I think. I think that's probably one of the...
After Abaddon, I feel like that's coming. Because every time Guilliman dies to, like, one succubus, I'm just like,
Yeah.
Because that's exactly... I think that's the only time my Guilliman has died, was to a single activation from a succubus.
Wow.
And I'm talking about specifically like my Guilliman model, because I've only played him like 3 or 4 times. It's not like he's gone rampaging through tournaments or anything. Just he's normally alive at the end of the game after killing a couple of things, and then one time he got hit by a Razorfell succubus and died 3 times over. I was like, sweet.
Bloody hell.
Sweet. Yeah, it took like 14.
That's crushing.
Took like 14 damage. It was his first game. That was the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, it was his first game being painted. He got like just like doubled up on. He got lapped by a succubus, didn't stand up, and I was like, yeah, game in.
It is what it is, man. It's definitely one of those things.
All right, so working my way up. I'm gonna go reestablish those white points just a little bit, nice and gentle, because I think I painted over them a little bit.
How are you finding getting the application of paint on? I'm still working my way up very slowly through the orange at the moment. Yeah,
working my way up through the oranges at the moment. Application's going on fine. Another lesson that it sounded silly but has actually worked, go figure, is that I am now painting with like basically exclusively with my largest brush, because it also happens to have a good point on it. And like my poor detail brush is like not even getting used anymore, and I'm like not missing it nearly as much as I thought I would.
It's strange, isn't it? Once you get used to just painting with the point of the brush for areas you need to, and painting with the belly, the body of the brush, for everything else, you really don't miss it.
Yeah. Again, I still find it amusing
that for the first time in 2 years recently, to use for oil paints on a plasma cannon I was painting, because I really needed something that was small and didn't carry much paint with it. But the other benefit of using a large brush is you go back to the palette a lot less. You know, you can just keep painting. It speeds things up and doesn't lose you accuracy as long as you have a good point.
Yeah, I imagine I'll be getting there as well, because I'm going to have to learn oil painting soon. Or at least I very much want to. Just because that's another tool that I would love to have in the box.
I think oil paints are one of those techniques for me that when you find out about it and when you give it a go, you get this feeling of like, why the hell was I not doing this in a certain number of years ago?
I'm sure it's coming. I mean, I'm already like that with glazes. I'm like, man, I just spent 14 years with only a wash. I was like, okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely a lot less obvious where to do. Having the white lines does help out a little bit here. It's definitely
it gives you
less
that nice
obvious.
end point to focus. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's what
it's there. This is what we're aiming for. It just helps smooth things through a little, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's see. Any orders in whatever medium was last available in. If last available in fine because metal is metal. There you go.
Okay, good to know.
Spencer says, chipping away on my backlog of sacrosants. Can't believe people have 30 of these things painted up. That's the sisters.
Yeah, those are the sisters elites with the shields, which, by the way, are completely beautiful. Completely beautiful.
They're nice models, but they look like they're quite annoying to transport. They look a bit easy to potentially catch on things and snap.
So this is my one hobby flex. I'm gonna knock on wood real quick. So this is a very common thing in the sisters community, is that like all of the halberds break.
Right.
And I have had 10 unbroken halberds fully painted that I've taken to multiple super majors in multiple states through airfare every time without breaking a single one. And I don't know how, because the model looks like it should break very easily and everyone else's break. And somehow the ones that I got have just been, their faith has never wavered.
I was going to say, the Emperor is literally watching over those.
The Emperor is absolutely watching over my sacrosanct. It's the only explanation that makes sense, really. Because they should have broken by now. Like just one of them minimum should have been broken. And somehow I'm keeping my sacrosancts intact. Hey, Squirtle Ninja is in the chat and with a super chat. Squirtle Ninja, thank you so much for your support. They also had to say, don't have time to watch the stream, but stopping by to leave a like and say that I appreciate the Art of War crew showing some love to the hobby side of the hobby. Squirtle Ninja, one, I absolutely love your name. Like, Squirtle Ninjas, that sounds great.
I have a mental image of that, which is quite impressive, I will admit.
Well, to be clear, the Squirtle Ninja that I'm like picturing is still wearing the cool glasses. You know exactly the ones I'm talking about. And we appreciate the support. Thank you so much, Squirtle Ninja.
Cheers, dude. It's nice to see that people are enjoying the hobby content that you guys are producing as well.
Yeah, well, we quite literally could not do it without you, Jay, so thank you.
I don't know about that.
Okay, well, it would be significantly lower quality without
the same
you.
Finish on your model, that's all.
Yeah, I've been doing it without you for 14 years, and I decided to bring you in, so take the compliment, dang it.
All right, fine.
And let's see. While I'm finishing this up, now seems like a good time to mention one of our sponsors, because we're doing that a little bit later in the video now. And that is Voxlink. So if you're watching this and you have not yet checked out Voxlink, you should check them out. You could find them right now on GoFundMe. So go check out Voxlink. It's basically an app that is for gamers by gamers, and it's designed as a social network app to give a gamer basically everything they need in a social network. So it's something where you can put in your preferences. It'll recommend you, like YouTube channels, videos, battle reports, products, etc. All based on, your own customization. And the best part is that you can use Voxlink to find other gamers. So if you find yourself... someone made an unbroken joke in the chat and completely threw me. If you find yourself looking to try and find a game, you should make sure that you check out Voxlink, because you can actually put in like a search function where you put in, let's say, for example, I wanted to play Warhammer 40,000, 2,000 points, matched play, competitive. I could put in those specifications, and I could put in a radius, and it would show me other gamers in the area that are looking for something. So if I was starting a new game, let's say I was, trying to learn Age of Sigmar while I'm waiting on 10th edition, or if I was, visiting some family in a new area, wanted to check out a local game store, or if you just want to find some more people closer to home, just more friends to play the game with that you love, Voxlink is a great resource, and you should definitely check them out.
I think it's a really cool thing, because a lot of people I talk to about the hobby come into the stream now. Like, listen, I've just moved to a new area, and I don't have any friends that play, and so on and so forth. And having a tool that's literally designed to solve that one specific problem, I think is brilliant.
Agreed. It's I'm surprised it hasn't been done before, frankly, because it sounds extremely useful, and in my opinion is that I'm in favor of literally everything that helps grow the hobby. Literally everything.
Yes. Absolutely.
But it's funny because I've gotten messages often about like, hey, I'm gonna be in X city in Florida right now, like in like a week. Do you know anyone there, or do you want a game, or do you know any hobby stops I should stop at? And honestly, sometimes I have an answer, and sometimes it's like, honestly, I've never been to the city you're referring to. I don't really know anyone there, so I don't know how to help. I actually had a friend message me who's European. He's like, hey, do you know anyone in the Bay Area? And I'm like, oh yeah, I was born there. Like, what do you need? He's like, okay, so I'm gonna be in San Francisco. I'm like, sorry, I was born like several thousand miles away in a different Bay Area.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I was born in Tampa Bay, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Bay Area.
Right.
But frankly, if you're in the middle of the United States and you say the Bay Area, San Francisco's the default. Just we call it that because we were there.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, I actually cannot help at all. I'm so sorry. So having something like that, I think is really useful. Then the joke from Ape of Justice was that with halberds like that, John should be on Art of War Unbroken. I am frequently. Blake loves to talk to me and rub it in every time I lose a game. It's great.
Blake's cool.
No,
like
sorry.
him. We did a great game together in New Mexico.
Oh,
Solid.
fantastic! I bet you did. Oh, that.
And his knights are beautiful as well.
I'm trying to imagine that knight versus knight game. That had to have been so pretty.
Well, we both thought so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we were both trying to convince the other person that their army was the prettier one.
Oh, not a doubt.
His freehand is spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freehand is the final frontier as far as I'm concerned. Like, yes, I acknowledge I want to learn it, but I think I'm going to try to learn a lot of other things first.
Well, it's one of those techniques that you need to have a good foundation and everything else first before you can start leaning into it.
Yeah, I fully believe that.
If you want to paint something simple, we'll say, like a chapter logo, so it's one color and it's just a plain icon logo, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's reasonably straightforward, depending on what it is. Like the Ultramar U symbol is much easier than, say, the Raven wing.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Raven wing. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then you get freehand that goes past that, and it's like, right, I'm going to paint this guy's banner, and let's take Ezekiel as an example, because I've done his banner as freehand. Here is a book with the pages open and the sword stabbed through the middle and flames coming out, and
it sounds like
else.
a lot.
That's when freehand becomes very, very different.
Yeah, well,
to get that, you've got to have glazes, which now you know how to do.
Hey.
You've got to be able to layer your paint's got to be able to build highlights across a surface that's not just here's the edge, so I do a little line, which you're now learning. So all the things you're learning now are leading you into a sort of space in your hobby where you have all the abilities you need to do that freehand. We just now need to get the practice for freehand at some point further down the line.
There you go. Yeah, that's where I want to get. I want to be able to, like actually do like a whole army of, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like all the logos on my Space Marines. Because the chapter I play is it's not custom, but it's definitely an obscure one, and I would say that they have a medium difficulty logo, where it's a lot more complicated than the Ultramarine U, but it is one color, so it's not as hard as, like, I think some chapters have like a 4-color logo, like especially the obscure ones, and I'm like, ooh, that would take a long time to freehand.
Is it not 2 colors? Because there's the main bit, which is quite dark, and there's a little bit in the middle which is not.
My chapter, the Emperor's Spears, sorry. The Emperor's Spears isn't my chapter, but I will be learning that too.
Oh, right, okay.
Yep.
Oh, what is your chapter?
I paint my Space Marines as Eagle Warriors. It's a halved white and blue scheme, and it's yeah, and their logo is basically like a wing, but it's all white on the blue shoulder pad. Or, I'm sorry, it's all blue on the white shoulder pad.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. A little trickier, but that's not so.
Yeah, it's definitely in the realm of doable. All right, so
I thought for Emperor's Spears it's actually quite tricky because painting the skull that small and still visibly a skull rather than blob of white number 37 is actually one of the toughest things.
I definitely think that the Emperor's Spears logo is going to be a difficult one. I love the chapter. It's why I chose it for the example Marine, and also because it happened to have all of the right colors in it. Because like my chapter is blue and white, and this will also be blue and white. But since it was an example, I just wanted to paint it up. Also because I often play my Eagle Warriors as Emperor Spears because I love the Emperor Spears rule set.
Ah, okay.
So I was like, I've been playing Emperor Spears a lot. Let me just like actually paint one model from the army just to say I did.
Why not? Mm-hmm. Why not? Right, how are you doing? I've pretty much got to the end of where I can continue adding orange. We're going to start adding orange and yellow together into this How are you getting on?
I'm about the same. I'm probably gonna do
Excellent.
one more coat of this orange, but I'm definitely at the point where I think there needs to be a little bit of yellow because we're getting quite coppery, and
Yes, exactly.
that's fine
Let's have
right
a look
now.
at your shadows then. So
Mhm.
on the underside of mine, we've got a nice dark shadow right at the bottom of this shoulder pad.
Yep.
I've got a dark shadow here, but I've started to brighten this bit up ever so slightly. You can see just on the edge here, and the edge here, we've brought a little bit of light to that because I feel from the side that would just catch the light. There's enough of it to do so.
Yep.
Other than that, as you can see, we've got still some of the white lines from before. There's a little bit there, and two little dots you can see here. And then obviously these ones are a little bit more distinct at the moment. How are you finding all of this?
About the same, not quite as pretty as yours as always, but I'm showing the camera right now so the chat can see. And hopefully in 15 or 20 seconds.
I'm actually not that far behind today for some reason. Like YouTube, clearly someone has done their prayer to the machine gods, and it's reasonably close, within seconds, not minutes.
Oh, even easy. Yeah. So same thing. I tried to leave this corner a little bit darker, build some shadows in, and I left the bottom of the kind of the rim of that shoulder pad a little bit darker as well, just because my guy has his shoulder pad. You can see it a little bit more of a raised angle than yours.
Yeah.
Because he is holding that sort of loft. So I left the kind of the bottom corner of that rim a little darker as well, because I thought that wouldn't get a lot of light.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do. Nice work, dude. Right, let's start adding in some orange and yellow together. And question in the chat that I actually can't answer. Zach says, so as Votan, I'm having a real hard time to guard if I go second on GW terrain. Does anyone have any idea on how to deal with that?
Oh man, I wish I knew Votan better. I think so with guard into Votan. I think that there is the challenge to overcome is that you, the Votan player, just don't score points the same way as guard. Meaning you have to come out. Meaning the guard army is waiting for you to come out. And that's kind of the inherent problem, is that once guard has a score lead on you on GW terrain, they just point their guns into the middle of the board and say, up to you.
Okay.
So I think what you need to do to deal with that, other than trying to take as good of a scoring plan as possible, unfortunately the Votan secondaries at some point that will stop working. I think it's that you need to have a lot of screen removal and a lot of MSU, so that you're able to clear. And I think also you need to use the bikes to like scout aggressively into a forward position, because if they want to come out and deal with that, then at least they're coming out where you can shoot them. Whereas if you at least scout your bikes forward aggressively, you'll be able to go hit their screens relatively early, hopefully, because I think you have to be able to force that action, because if you just get into a staring contest with guard, there's just a little bit of indirect chipping you and you will lose, and then you're just sitting there waiting for the Cascade Hammer to drop. I think you kind of have to force their issue. Now, I will say I have not seen this game myself, so I could not comment on who went first, but I know that in the Adepticon semifinals, Arn, who's playing Votan, was able to defeat Guard in the semifinal game. So I would say that you may want to go check out that stream on War Games Live. Again, I have not watched that game, so I couldn't tell you what happened, but all I know is that it happened. So Arn found at least one way, so I'd recommend checking that out.
Fair. I think the point you've made there is absolutely key, like massively key to playing 40k at a high level. And that is that this is what I've been trying to do for years with my knights, is forcing your opponent into playing the game that you want to play, not the game that they want to play. So like you said about moving out with those bikes and going, right, here we are, we're forcing you to do something now. You kind of deal with this and potentially win the game, or not deal with this and potentially lose the game. If you can keep putting your opponent in a situation like that, I think you're much more likely to win than not.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely kind of getting that pace of the game where you want it is really crucial. And especially for Votan, because Votan doesn't have as much of a fallback if the game is not going according to plan. I think Votan are still a very strong Plan A army. They just don't necessarily do Plan B and C as well as other factions, which just means that it's more important that the player understands that. It doesn't mean that the faction's inherently, unplayable or anything like that. It's more just that you have to appreciate the reality of the army and plan accordingly. That's how I view it.
Fair. Right, adding your yellow into the mix. One of the things you'll probably need to do is make sure your mix is a little thinner than before. So we're looking not necessarily like the glaziest of all glazes, but still nice thin paint. How's it going on for you?
I'm going well so far, keeping things nice and thin. Just adding a little bit more yellow to it and adding a little bit of water as well. So just getting it a little bit lighter. It's definitely looking very coppery orange right now, but that's okay. Trust the process.
That's right. It's going to be a lot of yellow that goes into this, remember? And then that yellow and white to really lift up the brightest parts. If we go too far, we can bring it back with some orange. We can change our shadows with purple. We've got all these tools available to us, and that's all given essentially through the magic of glazing. That's the secret bit behind the magician's trick is glazes. Brilliant.
Glazes. All right.
If you can only learn one painting technique, this is definitely the right one.
Look, I've already been using it. Which is pretty dang cool. I've been using it on some nights, and I'll probably end up posting some pictures in the Art of War Discord later this week. So I'm trying to get.
You should, dude.
I'm trying to get my my main night, my big guy, ready for the Streamhouse RTT. So I'm taking.
Get him on your social media channels and stuff. Show when you're doing some hobby.
Alrighty here. Alright, just getting it a little brighter. Just gotta keep telling myself to trust the process because I don't want his shoulder pads to be orange.
It's not part of the plan. No orange pads.
Absolutely not. No, this is completely unrelated, but I actually never paint orange on my models ever.
Orange is tough.
It's not that I have any particular opposition to painting orange. It's purely due to college football rivalries, where I basically swore off orange for 4 years, and then I just never brought it back into my routine.
You're from Tampa Bay, right?
I am, but I went to school in Texas.
Right. Okay.
And one of the larger universities in the state is a nice burnt orange, the Longhorns, and I purely from a sports standpoint, I hate them. Although I have met plenty of wonderful people who have gone to the school, so you distance sports from the actual university and the people. But it's just kind of funny because I just don't paint orange on any of my models if I have a choice.
I think that's fair. We've all got biases
absolutely
towards certain colors and things. For the same reason, I don't paint anything in tiger stripes because I'm fed up of seeing things wearing tiger stripes leaves.
Yep.
God damn it, guys! Come on, please. They've done better in the last 2 years, though.
Which team are you referring to?
Oh, my beloved 20-year-something fandom of the Bengals.
Oh, God bless.
I don't know why.
I also don't know why, but you know what? I respect it. I've got nothing against the good old Cincinnati Bungles.
Yeah, Bungles, Beagles. There are several others that aren't suitable for air. Yeah.
No,
20 years of supporting those is probably the same as just going to prison, I think.
Yeah, seriously. That's certainly a choice that you have made.
So I've done one highlight pass with the yellow. Now, what I will say is that what I've done is I've done several coats of that yellow in this step. So we've used one highlight. We've gone up one step in our process.
Yep.
We've applied multiple glazes, and we've kept them ever so slightly smaller each time to create these slightly smoother blends that you can see. And that's had quite a large effect already on the orange, just bringing it into something that's closing in on this now. Added in some more yellow, some more orange. We'll do the same step again, and the next time it will be just the yellow, and I'll distance it even further from what we had. And it will give us these massive contrasts at the back as well.
Very nice. Yep, doing it nice and thin here.
That's something that I think people don't realize necessarily when they start using glazes, is that because the mix you're applying is very translucent, you can do it again and again and again without altering the mix at all and still create a smooth progression for your highlights, because as you put down a layer of a glaze, you're just creating a little extra filter over something, and that's helping you push it further away from where it was before. You don't need to add more paint to it.
Yep. It's funny enough that it's something I was experimenting with yesterday because I was glazing the armor plates on a night yesterday, and I kept doing the same mixture over and over and over, like I think like 4 or 5 coats of the same slightly purple mix, and then change it up slightly, do it again. I think
So here's a question for you about glazing, and I'm pretty sure you know the answer to this one, but you can help out somebody in the chat that might not. When you are painting, especially using glazes, what direction do you make your brush strokes in?
So I always do my brush strokes from the point of least impact to the point of most impact. So for example, if I was trying to do a darker glaze and I was trying to go into the corner of an armor plate to kind of darken it up around the edge, I would start closer to the center and work my way out. So that little bit of pooling that happens at the end of a brush stroke, that is right in the edges, right at the darkest point.
Absolutely nailed it, mate. Well done. And you're going to be using those techniques on these shoulder pads. You're going to get to a point where you need to glaze to like a center. So for me, here, you're starting to create a bit of a bright spot, but on a slightly darker spot just here. So we glaze away from that darker spot into the bright spot this way. And we turn the model and do the same thing the other way. So pulling the glazes into the center with each brush stroke. And it's exactly for that one reason. As you lift your paintbrush off the model, you get a little extra deposit of paint coming in. And you don't want that in the middle of an area where you're trying to transition from one to the other. That ruins an effect really, really quickly.
Yeah, because I don't want to have too sudden of a transition.
That's right. At that point, you end up with something that at best looks cel-shaded, and at worst looks like, unfortunately, just a mistake that is kind of a bit plain to see.
Not what I want. I want to hide my mistakes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which you can also do with glazes.
Aha.
Have you managed to paint any on the blue yet?
A little bit. I've been able to get it off very quickly. Luckily, the paint is relatively thin, so I've been getting it with my thumb, and that's been working out fine. But yes, I have gotten
as a commission painter. That is a solid technique that we all use. I can promise you that for nothing.
Yep. All right.
I'll admit, as we got to this stage, we've got very yellow shoulder pads, and I'm getting proper 90s ultramarine flashbacks.
Well, again, funny enough,
this will fade, but damn.
I like that because again, I paint my my Eagle Warriors as second company, so they all have the yellow shoulder pads because I think white, blue as the primary colors, yellow tertiary I think happens to pop pretty well.
Yeah.
And so I very much like the yellow shoulder pads, and I acknowledge we're gonna move past this to gold, but if we stayed here and I was just yellow, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Well, there you go. You know what to do for your Eagle Warriors in future. Stop there.
Yeah, just get to a point and stop.
So the question about the Votan and the Guard conundrum. I noticed this was all very much definitely based around GW terrain, though I appreciate Adepticon was not really GW terrain.
Yeah. Adepticon was
very, very sparse boards.
Yeah.
From certainly my perspective.
From most.
Do you think that matchup goes very differently or the same on some of the more dense boards that you see in Europe and the UK?
I think on. I actually.
Tough question, I know.
So I honestly think that dense terrain makes it easier to go second, not harder. Because right now I think on the Adepticon terrain, which is not representative of every terrain format in the United States, I promise. I think that particularly lent itself towards a first turn advantage.
Yeah.
All right, going a little more yellow on this glaze. It's a tough one though. It's a tough one. Guard is certainly a problem for most people right now, as someone in the chat said.
Guard are strong.
Guard
very
good.
Strong, especially played rules as written with the Kazakin and no house rules on the mortal wounds and stuff like that. It becomes something that is definitely a hammer blow you know is coming in the game.
Yep.
Sometimes 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Hate when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough to deal with. That affects even like the biggest thing it affects, I think, for me, is your positioning when you're playing into that army. You have to understand that if you set up your units wrong, they can come in and hit 3 units at once with that. And you kind of want to. It's not so bad when they hit 1 unit; it hurts. But it's kind of all right. If they hit 2, it's like, oh god, that was a bit painful. If they hit 3, like, well,
Yeah, 3.
I'm just gonna put my toys away now and go sit in the bar.
3 is a lot. 3 is too much. But we'll see. We'll see. We know we've got a balance patch coming. We somehow haven't talked about the fact that 10th edition is coming.
You're right. We haven't had the 10th chat. We had the lion chat earlier on.
That's true. We did talk about the
so
lion.
far, I have 5 commissions to do for the lion. I'm going to be batch painting a Primarch soon.
Oh my god.
Which I'm actually bizarrely looking.
Whenever that model comes out, we can do a little lion paint along. See if I can get 1 Primarch done in the time it takes you to do 5.
No. Because airbrush goes burr.
I will also be airbrushing.
To be fair, mate, you might very well do, because there is some very significant freehand that needs to go on that model, I think.
Yeah.
And I've got at least one client that wants you to magnetize all 4 of his heads.
Ooh,
So
that's bold. I was actually thinking of doing that for the purpose of 2, though. I wasn't going to do all 4 necessarily.
Okay, this is a polarizing conversation.
I know.
Which helmet? If you could only choose not which helmet, which head?
If I could only
Helmet
choose one, honestly, it's no helmet, yes hood.
Oh,
The good old hello there. Like, the Obi-Wan Kenobi head is honestly, I think, phenomenal.
I hadn't made that connection. Okay, yeah.
I mean, but come on, look at it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was thinking more. He looks like a rogue from D&D or something in that hood.
Yeah, also does.
I'm with you on the Obi-Wan. Yeah,
just the best way to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think, and then if I did a helmet, probably the winged helmet for like the classic. But honestly, the helmet in the hood also looks really good.
I still can't choose between those two. Those two are my favorite.
The 2 different helmet options.
Yeah, but I don't know which one is the best one.
They're both like quintessentially Dark Angels.
Yeah, massive.
Like they're both iconic Dark Angel helmets. So, you know,
We've got another fan of the Obi-Wan in chat.
Excellent.
Mazix.
There you go. And I boosted our volume ever so slightly, Zach. So let us know if we're still too quiet.
I noticed in my headphones when you did that, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Like, ooh, volume down. But no, you sound much louder, much clearer. Doctor Doom is pretty good though. Where the helmet's going to right? So I know the answer to this. All right, this is why the Lion has been away from the Imperium for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
All right. He watched the Avengers film. Was like, listen, the Iron Man helmet, when that goes on, that's really sick, and I need something like it. But I kind of need more of my own personal spin on it. So what happens is, as he pulls back the hood, the wings go tang and shoot up.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. It definitely like is just a different helmet. Like the lack of the wings is funny, because that means that in different battles he like makes a conscious decision: is today a wings kind of day or nah? Like the Lion like stands in the mirror and like tries it on, takes it off, tries it on, takes it off. He's like, I don't know what I'm feeling. He spent 10,000 years making a decision in the mirror, Jay. Good, I've broken him.
Right.
Like, look, I've been there. No shade. I have stood in front of a mirror with two.
I guarantee you have not had to make the decision whether it's a Wings Day or not, John.
All right, not specifically that. Maybe like a different shirt.
There's a particular brand of, let's say, definitely ladies' bathroom accessory in the UK.
Oh, jeez.
That is named that, and so.
Okay, I'll freely admit that is completely beyond me. I don't know what you're talking about, and I'll just smile and nod.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's where I got broken from.
Okay.
We'll gloss over that and move on though. But yes, you've probably not had a Wings Day. But yes, I understand. Like, which helmet do I wear? The winged helmet or no helmet? Maybe the watchers in the dark carry the wings. And so it's the same helmet, and he pulls the hood back, and they quickly scurry up. One jumps into one's shoulders, like two-man totem pole. Click, click.
Well, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take like the Watcher from the new Azrael, who's carrying the lion helmet. Really not sure how that's going to work, by the way. And I'm just going to put him on the base with the hooded lion. And just like, yeah,
Ooh.
I've got a helmet when I need it.
Yeah.
Like someone should still be carrying his helmet. And then of course someone is going to like convert so that it's carrying the non-winged version, and then the lion is wearing the winged version.
That could work.
So much room there. It would be kind of funny to just have like three like watchers carrying the different helmets, all following him along while he's wearing like a bear head. Like that's what I think I want to do. Just have three different watchers
like a
carrying.
parade of them.
Yeah, just everyone's carrying a different helmet, and he's just walking along bareheaded, like just deciding if he wants the Thor wings today.
Okay. I think that would make a nice little centerpiece for your army.
Mm-hmm. Someone's got to submit that to Golden Demons. Someone's got to do it. A little bit more.
Yeah, that's right. Or helmet parade.
Yeah, a little more yellow on the blue. Let's get that off.
Nice. I've just started to begin mixing the white in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do probably 2 or 3 highlights like this, and then I'm going to start working back towards the shadows. So that's where I'll start taking some of the orange, some of the browns, and start working to help build up some of the contrast that we've got on this.
Okay.
So you know how we did that last week on the chest piece? We got to a certain point and we gave it a couple of glazes of orange, essentially all over.
Yeah.
Use some of the purple to help really get into the recesses and snap out those nice defined shadows to bring the detail out.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we're going to do that, but this time we have to rather just sort of do it was kind of a wash, but we used a very glaze consistency paint. We just used the technique of a wash, which is to paint it all over and allow it to seep into those recesses. We're going to have to use just glazes to do it, because now we have those large flat areas and we do really need them to be nice and smooth.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I've probably this next coat after this current one that I'm working on, I'll probably add just a tad, just the smallest amount of white.
Yeah. Doesn't need a lot. We talked about it several times over this one and last week. We really don't want to do brass. We want gold.
Yep.
Gold should have that luster. It should be rich.
Yeah, nice warm yellow. Yeah. Just keep it warm. I'm in Florida. Should always keep it warm. Okay.
So 2 weeks worth of non-metallic metal, and you've gone from doing the easier stuff to starting to work on the harder stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a bit of a weird question, but obviously there are lots of techniques that artists use that for some people I feel can be a little intimidating. Like, oh my god, I'm never going to do that. That's a really, really tricky thing to do. What's the point of even trying?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you approached non-metallic metal to begin with?
No, I didn't view it as impossible. I don't think that there's anything beyond my abilities, mainly because I'm fully convinced that miniature painting has nothing to do with talent, which is very convenient for me.
100%
very
correct.
Convenient for me, because I know that I am not innately inclined.
There's no part of the human biology that is a gene that's like the painting gene. You might have better hand-eye coordination, you might have better eye for color, you might just have better eyesight, but there's no, like, painting isn't a survival technique, you know? You can't be talented at it, 'cause it isn't part of what makes a human a human.
Yeah. No, it just is.
It's definitely all learned skill.
Yeah, it definitely would have been better to learn this when I was younger, but, here I am, making up for lost time.
Oh, I mean, if I hadn't stopped going to the gym when I was 18 and carried on like all the way through, yes, that would be better as well. But
Yeah, exactly. If I had somehow managed to work out and also, go to school and also learn how to paint, and just stayed in that the whole time, I'd probably have, just an absolutely massive cranium at the moment. However, at some point I compromised and started doing one instead of the other. All right, let's get a little more.
That's good. What would you say then, Nate, to anyone that is watching this and thinking perhaps, well, one time out is really hard?
Baby steps. Baby steps, and don't be afraid to not be there yet, because there is nothing wrong with having an end goal and being short of it at a point in time. Because there was definitely, I have progressed through the levels of decent at paint, okay at paint, below average at paint, etc., all while trying to get to good at paint. And it is very okay to spend a little bit of time at each step along the way. And yeah, that means some of my armies look better than others, but that's okay, because none of them look as good as the next one.
That's usually the case, yeah.
All right.
Good answer. Good. I like that.
All right, so we're going to start adding white in just a moment, I think.
Now, one thing to note about these highlights, I'm going to try and demonstrate it here. You can maybe see the last one, is we have a width to the trim of the shoulder pad, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to do a highlight here, which is where the middle of my highlight is. I'm then going to paint the very edges, top and bottom of that. So imagine like an H from this angle, a capital H.
Yep.
Gives you a nice bright point in the middle, and it stretches it out further. It makes it longer with those top and bottom lines, but it doesn't increase the amount of brightness. It just adds a little more with a larger, more gestalt effect, I feel. And lots of those sorts of things can help to push your model in the right direction with highlights and so on very rounded flat surfaces like shields. So if we were doing a shoulder pad like this is a very different story. You tend to have like smaller specular highlights like dots and so on, and they're really hard to do. This is a good middle ground between the two, I think.
Looking great. All right.
Zach says, my problem with NMM is that an army painting that style somehow looks worse than an individual model to me. Interesting point. I've seen quite a lot of armies in full non-metallic metal that have been beyond spectacular. The effort and the work that's put into it clearly shows these people are masters of what they do at that stage. There's a brilliant one painted by a Spanish painter at the LGT, which came second in best painted overall. And my God, it was wonderful. One of the issues with non-metallic metal is that you are working with a defined light source for everything. So I have chosen for my light source to basically come in from this angle above.
Yeah.
So it's coming in like that. And it's far enough around to the side that there's just a little catch of light there. It's coming from here, which is where it's bright at this point and bright at this point underneath, but not so bright around this side, and so on. When you display that model for a competition, you put it in a position where it makes sense for it to look. When you display a full army, you'll have one guy in the right spot, and you'll have somebody else slightly off, and somebody else slightly off in another way. And it breaks up the optical illusion that you're trying to create, because what you're not painting with is something with metallic pigment.
Yeah.
What you are painting with is regular paint, and you're trying to give the feeling and impression and fool somebody into essentially thinking it is metal, even if it's just for a tiny amount of time. And that's really, really hard about it. OSL is another one. If you've got one model, or a selection of large models, like something like Knights can carry it off very well because they're so big, they're separate from each other, and it works. You have smaller bubbles of light that don't interact with another member of the army. But if you've got, say, a squad of guys all with plasma guns, unless they're stood exactly right and you've done your technique right, they won't look the same. It'll be a little bit out of the illusion. You're breaking that fourth wall, or whatever you want to call it. So I get your point. You've got to be spectacularly good at your art to do that sort of thing. There are not many people on the planet like that. I am certainly not one of them.
Well, not yet.
No, not yet. But also NMM is something that I tend not to do. I very much prefer the look for my own models of true metallic metals. And people, NMM and TMM are the same thing done differently if you do both of them to their highest degree. Non-metallic metal is you using no metallic pigment whatsoever, so no like mica in your paints and anything else, to give you a metallic finish. TMM doesn't mean only putting down some silver, washing it black, and highlighting it with a different silver.
There's more?
There's a lot more. There are some brilliant busts, especially of like 18th, 16th, 17th century warriors wearing armor and so on, and it's true metallic metal, so they have real metal in the pigment. But then they have influenced it by adding other colors, usually with glazes and so on, to influence it just a little bit and filter the metal, that are spectacular. And this is definitely, for me, something I prefer to do. What I tend to do is use oils for it, because you can do a lot very quickly with oil paint in that medium. Where's that? I'm just going to grab something that's very simple to do.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
This is one of the Marines for the giveaway army. So if we look at the silver on this is true metallic metal. We've used real silver paint, so gunmetal and a few other Vallejo ones. And then all of the bits of weathering on top have changed the way the paint looks. And I don't just mean we've added a little bit of orange here, which is quite clearly seen as weathering and so on. But this bit of metal, which looks like a darkish metal, at its brightest highlight, before I did the oils, was that.
Okay, yeah. It's pretty bright.
And that's almost metallic white. And that the oil paint has influenced the surface of our paint. It looks more pitted, more worn. And all that was, it was a thick pass of burnt umber oils, basically.
All right. We're going to have to add true metallic.
Everything.
We're going to have to add true metallic metals to the file. Definitely.
Tell you what, mate, it'll help you so much painting things at night, because it works really well on big scale models. There's a technique called dot filter, which is about the most fun you can have while painting. It's a super, super, super simple process. Honestly, there's no skill involved in it whatsoever. And it's really calm and really relaxing, but the amount of like payoff you get from it is crazy. So.
Okay, there we go.
I tend to just do slightly more detailed army painting. I've been putting real effort into my Votan, because the league I'm in, like half the score is paint score, and it was motivation to paint for MCM. I don't know what MCM stands for, but that's brilliant. You've got a league that's like rewarding the hobby side of the hobby. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It's always good to kind of go for both. And I think MCM is the Motor City Mayhem. I believe it's a Midwestern event in the U.S.
In Detroit, right?
Yep.
Nice. Right, John, I am going back now with some mid-browns, like maybe our third or fourth highlight. Okay. And this is why we always, when we're mixing paint, we have this kind of, it's a bit out of focus, you have this kind of spectrum that you leave. You don't mix all of your paint, you go back a step and just leave that bit, and then go further on, leave that bit, and further on, so on and so on. So you can go back and just grab from something. But I'm going to add a little more orange to this. I'm going to use this as a glaze, a very definite glaze. And all I'm using to mix it down for the chat is water. If I paint a little on my thumbnail, you can see just how opaque the paint is. It really, really isn't. It's very hard to see that. But if we paint that over some of our yellow and do several coats of it, we'll end up with something that has a little bit more presence on the model. As we do each coat, it'll build up more and more. We're going to use this to help refine the shadows that we've got. Then I'm going to change the tone a little bit with some orange, just build it more towards that warm side of things, add some final highlights, and I reckon I'll be close to done.
Excellent. I'm finishing up what will likely be my last coat of the white and yellow mix, and then I'll be right with you.
Nice. So going back to what we said earlier on, we're blending into this area from both sides. So we get the brush into the shadow there, come here and go into the shadow here. For this one, there's only one direction to go in, so we paint up. And when you're glazing, one of the most important things to remember about glazing is that if it takes longer than just a couple of seconds, I mean literally between say 2 and 5 to dry, you've probably put too much paint on your mini, which means there was likely too much paint on your brush. Don't overload your brush when you're glazing. It's a tool for being patient, you know, taking your time. Doesn't take very long though. It has a big impact on what you're doing.
Alrighty.
And this might take 5 minutes or so to change the shadows. Overall, I think this is actually something that people forget that they can do. I think most people, especially the way the internet has convinced us that painting guides exist as a progressive, moving forward, step-by-step guide. There's a lot of YouTubers and stuff out there that won't ever show their mistakes, which I don't get. But you are kind of led to believe that you start at one point and go through a linear pattern until you get to the end. And painting is not like that at all. Painting is definitely something you can bounce back and forth doing. And I think that just revisiting your shadows, which allows you to resculpt your highlights a little bit, add a little bit more contrast and so on when you're finished, is something that everyone should do more of. Display boards are a lot more fun than I expected. Mate, I can't wait to do the one for my World Eaters. I need to finish my World Eaters, which means I almost need to start my World Eaters, but getting hold of some of it is very difficult at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, a lot of these new releases seem to be going down that path.
Yeah. I understand, though. Like, think about the amount of production that they've got churning out whatever the Indomitus box will be for 10th.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm sure with the Lion and Dante coming back, I feel like they're just going to call it Nihilus or something, and they're just going to say that half of the galaxy. But who knows what they'll call it. All right, so real quick, explain to me again exactly how you're putting this glaze on, because I just prepped it.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm separating some of my highlights so we have more contrast and more warmth in these areas. So you see here we've got this little tiny highlight at the bottom of the shoulder pad trim.
Yep.
Then we've got our main highlight, which is where that white dot was originally, further up here.
Gotcha, yep.
Okay. To fill in this area a little bit of shade, with a nice thin glaze, we're coming down towards the middle point of that there, and then turning the mini and coming back up towards the middle point of that here. We don't need to do too many of these because we want to keep everything nice and super smooth, but it just helps to bring out a little bit of the extra colors, a little bit of the depth in what we've got. So here, for instance, because we've been trying to paint in these kind of long edge highlights and a little bit of a highlight in the middle, like the letter H, do the same here, but instead of putting our brush flat to the surface, put our brush along the surface so I can put the point right into the middle of that.
Gotcha.
Bring that out, turn the mini, bring that out, and that gives me a darker line in the middle. If I need to fill some of the bits top to bottom, we can just come in here and go again into the middle, into the middle. And because we got the orange and the browns in there, it gives a richness and a warmth. If we were using purple for this, which we definitely could do, you run the risk of it being too much of a contrast. I might want to run a little purple line just in this recess here, but I've managed, I think, to do an all right job of my recesses. So I'm going to leave off that till the very end when I think, you know what, I might have to or not. But essentially, we just do this. We sort of play around with it, try and create some of these secondary and tertiary highlights. So like we've got this little tiny dot here next to this. I'm going to do the same sort of thing elsewhere to create little bits of separation. The more contrast you have on a mini, the more visual interest it gets. I think that's actually part of our like survival instincts kicking in. You know, it's like, this is weird, look at it.
Yep. All right. Okay, so kind of working along that theme. Got it. All right. Whew. All right, getting there.
Good. mean, just need a bit more shadow here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the fine tuning. Essentially, we've done the majority of our work originally with the layers of paint that we've put on the model. Now it's just balancing things just a little at a time.
It's okay. All right, cool. Yeah, so just trying to kind of get a little bit more separation between the various points that we're going to be highlighting.
That's right.
Excellent. Okay, I think we're doing okay at that. And as always, wipe it off the blue with my thumb.
Exactly, and with a glaze, it's such thin that you can
it's relatively easy to do.
Just remove it straight away. And if you glazed over the blue and didn't realize it until it dried, like, all right, fine, just a tiny pass of blue over the top, done, finished, it's gone.
Yep.
What's your favorite way to do water effects on a base?
Ooh.
So I've got this monstrosity, which doesn't even fit on screen. I'm showing you that.
Is that Alariel from Sigmar?
This monstrosity that I'm painting at the moment. And I've waited to paint this model for years. This is one of the best GW centerpiece models that they've ever done, I think. I love it. And the base is humongous. The base is nearly the size of my head. This is the 160 millimeter round circle that your soul grinder is meant to go on.
Oh, fantastic.
And I want to do a river, like flowing water on that. So not just a pool, but flowing water, because I think it'll add a lot of dynamism to the base and the model. For water effects, I tend to use these days UV resin for still water because it isn't a pain in the ass. You put resin into a recess on the base, you shine some UV light on it, and then it dries. That's it. Done. Happy days.
Easy.
Yeah, for flowing water, I will probably still use that as a basis. Because it dries very clear. It's easy to get bubbles out of it. I will admit one of the best ways to do that is with something like a miniature welder's torch. So this is a little blue flame, you can see, that you can change to a soft flame and all that. And that's brilliant for just quickly over the top melting bubbles. You have to be extremely careful not to melt any of the model.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
Like, quite definitely. Those things, the tip of the blue end of the torch, I think gets to about 1500 C. I don't know what that is in freedom units. Only gets like 3000 or something. So you've got to be real careful. But it just pops all the bubbles on the top. It's something we used to do in kitchens when I was a chef. We used to quickly blowtorch things like tarts and pies and things that needed to have a nice clear surface to it. But I'll probably end up doing liquid resin for that, and then using something like a transparent setting gel to create the waveform on top. And then there's loads of fun things you can do, like creating water splashes with glass microbeads and like bits of fishing wire and all these sorts of things. There's lots of cute extra stuff you can do with it, put it that way.
All right. How many coats of that orange glaze do you put on? Because I think I'm about done with mine.
I think I'm done refining my shadows.
I think I am as
well. So
well.
what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of the ember orange, thin that to a glaze, and glaze the entire thing. Now, very important, try and get one line with a brush stroke. So,
yeah. Real quick,
line, start here and work all the way around. Go on.
Okay. I was going to answer a question in the chat real quick because we had Tatters1717 who says that they've just come back from their first super major, taking a new army and went to 2 and 3, and they want some advice on how to analyze their mistakes and try to get to 3-2 on the next time out. Tatters, that is a very good question, which unfortunately has a very long answer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to point you towards the war room because we have a whole section in our strategy sessions about analyzing your mistakes, where you can learn from such wonderful players as Richard Siegler and Nick Nanavati. They're usually the ones who do that, although I've tossed my hat in the ring a couple times. And if you want to check out the worm, if you haven't seen it before, click the link below and you can get a free 3-day trial. So, it's a little scary to sign up for the worm, I get it, but I would highly recommend checking it out. And right now, with a free trial, is absolutely the best time to take a look. So if you've been on the fence for a bit, or if you've tried the War Room a while ago and maybe left us for whatever reason, now is a very good time to either check it out or take another look. So Tatters, that'd be my advice. Because otherwise it would take me an hour to explain.
It really is a very in-depth answer, but what I want to say, Tatters, to give you some encouragement, is you're already on the right path. When I got back into the hobby in my 20s, I played at least one game a week, frequently two, every week for an entire year, and I got absolutely destroyed in every single game. And like a chump, I blamed my dice, I blamed my army, I blamed every possible thing it could have been except for myself. And it was only by analyzing my games and like really adopting some like methods of thinking about it that I got any better. And that took months. It's 100% the right thing to do is that self-analysis. But sometimes you do need a little bit of help to do it.
Absolutely. All right, so Jay, I think you were about to drop a knowledge bomb on me.
I was. So we're talking about this orange glaze that I'm applying now, and you can see I'm taking great pains to do the entire thing in one brushstroke if I can.
Okay.
It's because we want to apply a smooth coat over everything, and what we're trying to do is just warm up everything a little bit before we apply those last final highlights that snap into the same sort of focus we've got here. So we've taken some extremely thin ember orange, and if I put this on my thumbnail, you can see it's almost imperceptible. It's just a little hint of it. Without overloading the brush, paint the entirety of a line on the shoulder pad. And I'm probably going to do 3 or 4 passes of this till it gets to the kind of color temperature that I want it to be.
Yep, that is as close to imperceptible in my thumbnail as it could be, so let's rock with it. So whole thing one stroke.
Yeah, the reason for doing it is because if you do loads of like small, like sketching kind of brush strokes, even at this stage where we're doing our final work, you can end up leaving a very, very minimal but still perceptible texture on the model. And so I find it's just better to try and get the whole thing in one. If you've got to rotate the model, if you're doing your brush stroke, if you've got to change the position you're painting a little bit, do that. It does have an effect.
Okay.
And I think we're getting to the point where this is about as warm as I personally want to make mine. You see, you've got a lot more orange in this top highlight.
Yeah, I think mine is plenty warm.
Excellent. So in the last highlight, like we did last week, John, is just go back to that yellow and white mix and build up those final spots of light on the mini.
All right, let's do it. Okay.
I mean, this isn't going to win Golden Demon, but it's looking all right.
I don't know. It's looking pretty darn good to me. There we go.
Speaking of Golden Demon, obviously we had the Golden Demon at Adepticon this weekend.
Did you see the winning model?
The Slayer Sword model.
Yeah, I believe it was the Slayer Sword.
Very cool looking Dark Angels, dude.
Yeah, the Lazarus. Dark Angel's just winning everything right now, right?
Apparently so.
It's a good weekend to be. It's a good month to be a Dark Angel, frankly. You know, you've got the army where it is right now. We have the announcement of the lion. Like, it is everything. I've got to say, I am really, really excited to paint up the lion whenever I get my hands on him. That is a model that I'm going to try and sit down and just do my absolute best on.
I think it's
I think it's stunning.
Beautiful canvas. You know, it really is. There's so much you could do with that.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how I'm going to, or if I'm going to convert it yet, because I usually like to change up just a little bit on a hero like that, just because I don't want him to be in the exact same pose as the 27 other Dark Angels that would, or lions that will inevitably be at a tournament.
Special characters, right? In a universe of literally trillions of souls. It's crazy how many Abaddons you saw.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was an LVO where Ahriman was like the most commonly taken character, period.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, like not even named, like just, yep, everyone has an Ahriman. Guys pulling overtime.
Oh, mate, the changer of the ways has changed many things into a Arrowman, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a great sculpt, though. It's a very, very cool model. I enjoyed painting it when I did.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know what you mean about trying to convert things for my World Eaters. The goal is, because I'm someone that doesn't do a lot of kit bashing, is to convert every single miniature in the army, which is why it's taking so long.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I did Abaddon for it, and I wanted him to look like a World Eater. So he couldn't have Drachnien in its normal form. He needed Drachnien as a chain axe. So I had somebody sculpt the axe head and so on for me. And it's got the kind of faces coming up through it.
Oh, I'm sure that looked wicked, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly,
So,
I bet you could even like get like a spare axe from like, because I think the Angron kit, does it come with 2 axes?
axe and a sword. It's some.
Yeah.
I can't remember the names.
Yeah,
of the
it's like Samus and then like Spine Grinder or something.
That's it.
I like that one of them has a demon.
Samnir, I think.
Yeah. There's a bunch of good plastic, or a bunch of good chain axes, I should say. So
there is, but I needed it because he was originally. My thought process was right. Chaos Soup.
Yeah.
Abaddon's an absolute beast. There's a reason he's in every Chaos army. Super good buffs, super good tanky character, deals crazy amounts of damage. He's going in. But I need him to be like the biggest and hardest and nastiest and so on. So I wanted something that still gave Drachnien feels, i.e. the floating heads and so on.
Yeah.
But it had to be the biggest, baddest World Eater out there.
I think you should just sacrifice an Angron model and take an extra axe from it.
Well, I ordered Angron the day it came out, and my order was completed 2 minutes after 10 on that Saturday morning. And if anyone knows where that Angron is in the production process right now, please feel free to tell me.
Oh man, that is unfortunate.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, that's. I'm sure that they're just cranking out new Indomitus boxes, and we're gonna be very happy that those are all in Stockholm, because I'm sure there won't be any problems for that.
Well, last the time they did the 10th edition, sorry, the 8th and 9th edition, they sold over 1 million of those boxes just in Europe.
Oh yeah, those things went everywhere.
That's mad.
I mean, I'm probably getting 4.
4? You greedy sod.
Not 4 on day one. Not on day one.
John bought them all right?
No, with any luck, I'll get 2 on day 1 and then 2 a month or 2 down the road. Because I need the rule of 3 of everything of Tyranids, just how I operate, because that's my primary. And then I really just I have a lot of Space Marines, and just the more Space Marines I have, the better. And every time they do one of these, the models end up being good conversion fodder for the future as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think I just want it. All right, so I think I've done about the highlights on this. This is definitely harder to do than the Chest Eagle. Yeah.
But it's kind of rewarding, right? I like painting with glazes, especially with those. It's so stupid, especially the really small, tiny, piss annoying highlights.
Yeah,
for some reason,
that tiny.
I find it enjoyable.
Oh wow! Well, glad one of us does. Yeah, let me just suck in my breath real quick and do that.
Assume the position. Hold the breath. All of the breath.
Yep.
Don't laugh. Don't blink.
Can't even.
Heartbeat for a second.
You can't even breathe. If I breathe, it might upset my arms. No movement in the room, just the brushstroke. Whew. Okay. Well, I think I've got room to improve, but I think that's not too bad.
You've done extremely well, John. Like, this is one of the more technically challenging things to do non-metallic metal on, while still being, not the hardest thing it could ever be. Which would be something like armor plates, shields, big flat areas.
That'll be
to
fun.
do what you've done, as well as you've done it in your first real try, is spectacular, mate.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Color-wise, Looks like it matches the other gold that you've got. It should do. We've used the same colors, but obviously that balance of glazing and back and forth with shadows changes things a little bit. I think that's solid.
Excellent stuff.
You've done well.
All right. Well, I think we're running just about to the end of the episode today.
Looks like. So we need to work out what we're going to do next time.
Let's
have a chat off stream.
All right. Let's have a chat off stream. We'll come back because I think you said next Monday you're going to be returning from Germany, right?
I am indeed. By the time I get back home, the stream will have been and gone, I'm afraid. So unfortunately, no stream on Monday.
No problem. So we'll work out when we'll be live next, and I'll post an update on our YouTube channel to exactly when that'll be, and we will work our way from there.
Excellent.
All
I
right.
hope you guys have enjoyed the stream as well. If you have, make sure you come back when we come back.
Absolutely, and also make sure that you go support Jay on his channel as well. Give him a like on both YouTube and Twitch, and you can even catch him painting a bucket of Space Marines pretty soon.
They could even be your Space Marines.
That's tempting.
Tune on
right
the
there.
22nd and 23rd of April, and you might win a 4,500-ish point Space Marine army with a Thunderhawk gunship.
It's just what I need.
You do need that Thunderhawk, John.
I do need that Thunderhawk. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. As always, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We love it when you click those buttons. And check that link below if you want to check out a free 3-day trial to the Worm. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Peace out.